The next person that I'm going to call is originally from Jamaica. And he is full of wonders. When he first came to the United States of America, he only had $40 in his pocket with a dream for a better life. Now he has been featured in New York Times Men's Health. He is an Emmy nominated for inspirational speaker. He is the Toastmaster International World Champion of Public Speaking. He is a certified speaker professionally from National Speaking Association. This person has delivered more than 3,500 presentations, and he is helping organizations make better leaders and helping others achieve their dreams of a greater life. People, I would now welcome, with a huge round of applause, distinguished Toastmaster Mark Brown, Stronger Together.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Friends, it is indeed an honor for me to be here, but I must confess I'm a little concerned because you have placed me immediately before my dear friend, our Chief Executive Officer, Daniel Rex. We go back about 26 years and I tease him. I say, well, Dan, I get to be the opening act and you get to be the headliner. But I think if we both do our jobs well, we can be stronger together. Now, I'll be honest. Today, I want to have a conversation. I could talk about us being together during this COVID-19 crisis. I could talk about, you being a district, a council for less than a year and all you've done to achieve your goals. But I believe everybody else will basically do that. So I chose not to do that. Instead, I simply want to have a conversation about what it means to be together, but I'll take a perspective slightly different than what you would expect in a Toastmasters conference. Before I came online, I was actually holding on to my father's binoculars. There's a window outside in my workspace, and I could look through my binoculars. I could see birds, I could see turtles, and on any given day, I'll see chipmunks, squirrels, rabbits, I'll see deer in my backyard, and once in a while, I'll go outside for a walk, and I see these huge mounds, well, not huge, they're huge to us in America, of course, but these mounds of ant hills. And every once in a while, I'll go over to an anthill and I'll see some creature got stuck in it, maybe a lizard or a grasshopper or a wasp or something. And you disturb that anthill and suddenly, literally thousands of ants come scurrying out and they attack this one little creature in my backyard. And I stand there and I watch with total fascination how all these ants swarm this creature. What's interesting is that particular creature could be a lizard, 4, 5, 6, 10 times their size. I'll walk away. I'll come back in an hour. And before long, half that lizard's body has been taken apart. And by the following day, I have no evidence that lizard was there. The anthill is restored. The body is gone, perhaps consumed for food to serve the young ones in the anthills. And I realized that this lizard could be 10 times bigger than these ants or even more. But in overwhelming numbers, these ants prove that when they work together, they can be stronger together. Am I saying you are all ants? Maybe. One book of wisdom says, go look at the ants, you lazy person. Look at what they do. Consider how they do their things, and you'll become wise. So maybe you are all ants who work together to create this wonderful mound called District 122 Territorial Council in Pakistan. But we think of an anthill, and we know somewhere in that anthill is one particular ant, the queen, the one that gets all the babies, one that gives birth to all the ants coming through. We look at beehives, there's a queen bee who gives birth to all the other bees in the hive. I don't wish to identify a queen bee or a king bee in that case. But what I learned from the ants is not just that they work together, but they survive because they're a family. And that's what I really want to talk about for a few minutes today. The fact that as Toastmasters, we really can and should be family. And I know in an anthill, you have different workers and different ants that serve different purposes. And beehives, the same dynamic occurs. They have different roles, different parts to play, but they all serve the collective. They all serve the team. They all serve the family. And I believe we ought to consider ourselves as family. I will say this, though, about our COVID-19 crisis. You see, all over the world, we're going through the same thing. So we share a common experience from different places. We're in different parts of the world. Europe, you're Asia, I'm North America, Africa. We're hearing about this pandemic everywhere. And even though we're so far apart, we understand the feeling. And even though we're physically distanced, and it really is physical distancing, not social distancing, because here we are, 136 of us socially connected, but physically distanced. And we understand that concept. And sometimes family finds themselves far apart, but the sentiment remains we are together. And I mentioned the queen bee and the dominant ant, the workers and so on, those who have different roles. I didn't fully understand that until I was part of a certain family growing up in Jamaica back in the 1970s. That was in the 70s. Perhaps I'm older than I look, but that's okay. Not just my family at home where I live, but the family I came to know and love when I was in school, playing my favorite sport, football. Now here in North America, they call it soccer, and I have no idea why, because the way the game is played, you use your foot to kick a ball, hence football. Makes sense to me, right? And I became a team captain in 1975 of a junior team. And 2 years later, I worked my tail off to become part of the senior team. And I made my senior team in 1976. For those who are trying to do the mathematics, I'm almost 59 years old. So just so you know, okay? And here it is in 1976, we're on this team, a young team playing in high school. And in Jamaica, high school football is a pretty big deal. We had 18 uniforms, and there were 150 guys who went to the first tryout. They all wanted to make the team. So it was tough to make the team. Happily, I did. And there was one guy on the team. His name was Leo. We'll not forget this kid. He was a really thin, skinny kid, very enthusiastic, very dedicated. And we were playing official World Cup rules back in the 1970s in high school. And I remember we played game after game after game. And Leo was a substitute on the bench. That was his role in the family, so to speak, on the team. And the season began to wind down, and coach would use different substitutes at different times. And at all these games, the one sub who never got any playing time was Leo. And the season wound down, and it got to the final game of the season. We were in a cup semifinal. We were losing 2-0. And in those days in Jamaica, we played all our games in a national stadium. You had 8 to 10, maybe 15,000 people watching a high school football game. Think cricket is big in Asia, man, think football in Jamaica. And I remember that game, there must have been about 10 minutes left in the game. And our vice captain, Gilbert Chang, remember we call him Gilly, he got injured. And the coach looked down the bench and saw Leo on the corner of the bench. Now don't forget now, we're playing our last game of the season in the national stadium. And he points to Leo and says, your turn to get warmed up. Now the whole crowd sees this because the bench is up against the grandstand. Leo begins to get warmed up. He's doing jumping jacks and stretching, and people are going, whoa, Leo is going to play. Wow, check this out. And he got ready, and coach said, he just told him what to do. Go down the field, you're going to replace Gilbert Chang. Just hang in there for 10 minutes. Don't let them score any more goals, okay? Yes, coach. And Leo began what I call the walk. He had to walk down the cycling track, across the long jump pit, across 8 lanes of running track to get to the sidelines. And he was met by the official. Now they call them assistant referees. We were called linesmen back then. And he told referee, I'm going to go in for number 5. And the ref took out his game sheet, looked at it, walked over to Leo and said, I'm sorry, son, you can't get in the game. Your team has used all their subs. We can't let you in. The kid is like, what, are you kidding me? He doesn't know what to do. So he turns around and he waves to his coach way back by the bench. And the coach comes down the cycling track, across the long jump pit, across 8 lanes of running track with his team lineup. to talk to the referee. Leo's standing there, linesman's there, and 15,000 people are watching this happen. And the referee says, "Coach, I'm sorry, I can't let this kid in. You've used your full complement of subs." So what do you mean by I have my time sheet here, but didn't use all our subs. I have here 2 outfield players and the goalkeeper. And the rule says I can make 3 subs plus the goalkeeper. Leo will be number 3. Referee says, no, coach, you're wrong. The rule says you're allowed to have 3 subs, including the goalkeeper. You made your 2 subs. You've subbed your goalkeeper. You can't let this kid on the field. I'm sorry, he has to go back. The crowd is watching this drama play out in real time. And Leo, this skinny, buck-teeth, knock-kneed, floppy-eared kid who had waited all year for his chance to play in the last game of the season, had to turn around and walk back across 8 lanes of running track, across the long jump pit, up the cycling track, and to sit on the end of the bench till the game ended, the season ended. He didn't get to play, and he was just embarrassed in front of 15,000 people in the only national stadium in that small island country of Jamaica. And I can vividly remember it like it was yesterday, because that kid, Leo, his name was Leo Brown. Mark Leo Brown. That kid was me. True story. And I had 2 choices when the season ended and the game ended. How will I handle it? Well, the following day I went to school. And when you're at school with your mates, with your buddies, you're like family, And my friends saw me at school the following day, and they laughed in my face. Ha, 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 man, you got messed up. Oh, man, I wouldn't want to be you. I'm 15 years old. What do I do? 2 choices. Say, forget it. It's embarrassing. Won't do it. Or I'll wait for next year. And the following year, I went back to practice with 150 guys. I tried out again. Had to go through 2 months of practice. Finally got on the team a second time. And September the following year, I went back to the national stadium. I went down that cycling track. I went across that long jump pit, across 8 lanes of running track. And I took my place as the starting right fullback on my high school team, a high school team that finished number 2 in the country, national runners up. But here's a lesson I learned, and I learned it late. I didn't understand it. The lesson I learned was that my role in 1976, my first year, was to be the best that I could be and help my teammates be the best that I could be. My role as a team player, as a member of the family, was to support others who were going to play a different role. In the same way, in the hive, the worker bee serves the queen bee, and the drones have a different function. And in the anthill, different ants have different functions. Check this out. As a Toastmasters district, territorial council, you may not have the prominent role. You may not be a CGD or an area director or a division director. You may not even be a club's sergeant at arms. You may think you're one small cog in the wheel, but you're a part of the family. And everything you do supports everybody else in your family. And when you do that well, just as I did back in 1976, my team grew stronger together. So the following year, we won our regional championship. We went to a national final because we had become stronger together. Here's my point. Your role may seem to you to be insignificant right now in the family. That is your territorial council in Pakistan. But do not discount your value. Do not discount what you bring to the table. Do not discount who you bring as a person, the heart you bring, the passion you bring, the courage you bring, the mistakes you bring, the experience you bring. Every single aspect of your life is critical to the continual growth of your district as you grow stronger together. But it goes beyond what you do as a district, I think. I said I'd talk to you about family, so I'll do just that. It goes beyond because it also affects your life as a human being, as a member of a blood family, as a member of a community, as a member of a society. At a time when the world is going through so much, families do need to stick together because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when tough times are going to hit. And family needs each other. And if you're like a true family, you're going to disagree. You're going to have your little tiffs back and forth. You're going to have times when Somebody, you know what? I love you, but I don't like you right now. If you felt that before, you know what I'm talking about, right? And feel free to use a reaction. Give me a clap or a thumb up if you agree with me. There are times I love you, but I don't like you right now. And that's real. But no matter what happens, through the thick and the thin, through the hard times, family will always be there and should always be there for each other. I know how that feels. Because see, back in the summer of 1993, I collapsed with chest pains in a parking lot of a mall in New York State, and I was diagnosed with multiple pulmonary emboli, massive blood clots in my lungs, and that was the good news. The bad news was one massive clot inside my heart, the one that threatened to take my life. And I was given a 50-50 chance of survival. And I had one person, I mean, great medical care. It was risky, but great medical care. But I had one person who was always there, my wife, Andrea. She's my family. We're told the two shall be as one. But not only that, we had our children. Back then, Angelina and Joel were what, 7 and 9, very, very young, or 6 and 8, I don't know. They were very, very young. But they were with me. So it wasn't just 2, it was 4. Then my aunt in New York called my sister in Florida and said, listen, I don't know if I'll see Mark alive again. Somebody better come right away. And my sister and her husband came, and it became 8 and 10 and 12 and 24. And all of a sudden, in a time of crisis, I saw just how strong my family was. An ancient book of wisdom says, a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. How strong can and should a family be during difficult times? That same family rallied around me and gave me strength, and I recovered back in 1993 before entering my first Toastmasters contest in 1994. The same family that was there to love on me and encourage me during that time. And that same sister, my beloved baby sister, she's 57 years old, I call her a baby, when she had breast cancer and got divorced at the same time. Or earlier this year when she found my nephew at home who'd been battling depression for a long time, and he chose to leave this earth, and she found him. And we rallied around her and loved on her and hugged on her, and seeing a network of people who made her strong. Her ex-husband is a firefighter, was a former fire chief. And at the funeral, we had an honor guard of firefighters serving, helping. They were standing room only when we said our final goodbyes to my nephew, Andre. And because of the family that he had built with the firefighters, the family she had built with the people she worked in social work, the family she had built with her daughter's university. My niece's college professor from Alabama went to Florida to support my sister and my niece during a time of loss. That's what family does. And when you do right by family, your family grows and you're stronger together during the difficult times. You're stronger together during the hard times, and you're stronger together during the fun times. So I said today I'll talk about family. It's not totally about Toastmasters, but it does make me ask a couple of questions. What kind of family member have I been to my wife, to my children, to my loved ones? What kind of family member have I been in my community, to my ball players who I played ball with back in the day? You know, my heart is warm when I think about that. I told you it was 1976 in November when I was turned back and sent to the bench to sit and suffer the loss and the embarrassment. Well, the coach that day, his name is Alty McCoy, which means nothing to you. He moved to Florida many, many years ago. He's now 74 years old. He's got glaucoma in his eyes. He's lost his eyesight. But every once in a while, I'll hear my phone chirp, and I'll look down, and I'll see it's Alty McCoy, my high school soccer coach from 44 years ago. Not blood family, but a bond that was created on a football field in 1976 that remains strong to this day. And Alty and I talk all the time. 44 years, not blood, but a bond was formed playing sports. So here's my thought and my challenge for you, friends. I'd like you to think back over your life. the people with whom you shared those bonds of intimacy. Maybe you were part of a sports team or a debate team. I have no clue what your life has been like. And even if you are a millennial and you're younger, you're under 25, that's okay. Don't forget from whence you have come. Think of the bonds you have formed with people 15, 20, 25 years ago. Maybe you want to rekindle that relationship. I challenge you to pick up the phone sometime this weekend or next week and call someone who was a part of your family with whom you've lost touch for a while. Rekindle that relationship. Who knows where it will lead? But you may call at a time when they really need you, and your call, your association, your rekindling of that relationship will make them stronger because you were there for them. Here's my last little story before I say goodbye. 26 years ago, I entered my first speech contest completely by accident. Didn't know what I was doing. And in 6 months, I found myself competing in the Region 7, 4 months, Region 7 speech contest finals in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. And I took a plane from New York to Canada, didn't know anybody. I think I know 3 people in the room that day. Over 200 people assembled there. And Toastmasters always sends a dignitary, a home office official to oversee the proceedings. And while I was there, and I won that region contest to go to the World Championship, I met a man who was then the director of marketing at Toastmasters. He's about 6'4" tall. I got acquainted with him. But on the way back to the airport, we shared a taxi cab. And I'm 6'1", he's 6'4", and that taxi cab was the size of a matchbox. I mean, it was so small. We had our knees tucked to our chins in the back, holding one of our bags, because he only put 2 bags in the back, in the boot, in the trunk, holding onto our bags. And we began to converse and built a friendship. We got to the airport, parted company. But that was June of 1994. And over the years, we've kept in touch. I got to know his wife, met his kids. He got to know my wife, met our kids. We've gone to the beach at conventions together and hung out. We've had breakfast together at convention times. And every once in a while, I'll get a phone call. Hey, Mark, how you doing? I'm great. I'll call him back. And I always ask him 5 words. How may I serve you? And I know he's on this call today because Daniel Rex is up to speak after I speak. And over 26 years, I've built a bond with that man. And I appreciate that man. You have a really good CEO serving this organization. And in many ways, I treat him like family. So final thought is this. You want to be stronger together? Don't just think Toastmasters, area, club, division, or district. Think family. And ask yourself, how can I best serve my family so we can all be stronger together? I thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster Mark Brown. I am literally out of words. You read about leaders, we have talked about superheroes, and hearing your story has literally taken away everything that I had in here, and it has filled my heart with pleasure to have you here. It has been an honor listening to you, and a real special thank you from my side. Thank you.
Thank you all.